Hey everyone, and welcome back to Historical Quarrels. I am your host, Tyler Eckhardt. And instead of the usual, like cold open, trying to make everything interesting, we're going to just be jumping right back into where we left off last week on the Haymarket affair. For those of you who are just joining in listening today, kind of brief reminder, the Haymarket affair is a labor strike turned deadly when some people that were on a strike decided to throw a bomb into a crowd. Last week we covered up, we covered the Chicago labor affairs. We went over some of the people that were involved, and then we went over the police eyewitness statements that they gave, and some giggle gabbles getting used. So sit back, get ready as we continue the rest of the Haymarket affair on today's Historical Quarrel. You are listening to Historical Quarrels. Witnesses maintained immediately after the bomb blast there was an exchange of gunshots between police and demonstrators. It is unclear who fired first. Historian Paul Avrich maintains that nearly all sources agreed that it was the police who opened fire, reloaded, and then fired again, killing at least 4 and wounding as many as 70 people, including themselves. They're great at killing not just the normal people, the rioters. They were killing other police officers, and then the police officers that were getting shot at thought it was the protesters, and it just became this huge, incoherent mess, essentially. On May 5th through the 6th, the day after the events, there was widespread public outrage and shock in Chicago and nationwide. Police arrest anarchists and labor activists, including 7 of the 8 eventual defendants. Albert Parsons fled from the city only to surrender himself on June 21st. So the police assumed that an anarchist had thrown the bomb as part of a planned conspiracy. Their problem was how to prove it. On the morning of May 5th, they raided the offices of Arbeiter Zeitung, arresting its editor, August Spies, and his brother, who was not charged. Also arrested were editorial assistant Michael Schwab and Adolf Fischer, a typesetter. A search of the premise resulted in the discovery of the quote revenge poster that, if you guys remember from last week, August Spies wanted removed and did not like. He thought it was went against completely what their movement was about. And other evidence considered incriminating by the prosecution. So there's that. They're like, hey, you said that you're trying to incite people to come out in force here. Now on May 27th, the grand jury indicts 31 people charged with being accessories to the murder of policeman Matthias J. Deegan. 8 are chosen to stand trial. Albert Parsons, August Spies, Oscar Neeb, Louis Ling, George Engel, Adolf Fischer, Michael Schwab, and Samuel Fielden. On June 21st of 1886 through July 15th of 1886, jury selection commences. 981 citizens are questioned during the voir dire process. The resultant panel of 12 are largely businessmen, clerks, or salesmen. The jurors, like the public at large, hold preconceived notions about the defendant's connection to the bombing. So it was a hugely stacked jury. All these people are super against the anarchist movement. They hate. Sorry, my cat's in here with me and is deciding to just jump all over. It's a lot of fun. But so it's not a fair trial at all. What's going on here is it's definitely rigged. It's definitely set up to make an example of these people, at least in my opinion, with how they did this. And then July 16th, 1886, through August 11th of 1886, trial testimony begins. 227 people testify, including 54 members of the Chicago Police Department. And the defendants, Fielden, Schwab, Spies, and Parsons. The defendants are prosecuted not as perpetrators, but as responsible for instigating the violence. A guilty verdict and death sentence are considered inevitable. Pretty much pretty much they all know that they're going to fucking die for causing, for being a part of this movement and for, trying to get fair labor rights. Because it's just kind of fucked up. And then on August 19th of 1886, the jury will convict the defendants and sentences Neeb to 15 years in the penitentiary and the others to death by hanging. The stacked jury that totally had absolutely no bias against them. They just decided to convict them based off of all the evidence, which let me go ahead and dive a little more deep into what evidence they actually had. So by the time of the Haymarket Fair, and all the evidence that they gathered, it was largely here. Let me, oh my gosh. Okay. The evidence that was brought to court were Union banners, police handcuffs, and several documents and like journals that were written by the defendants. And some of these journals had damning things in there, like, oh my gosh, if only like these police would be killed, or actually not even all of them really said, they didn't say kill in any of those journal entries. But there was a globe-shaped bomb casting that was evidence. There was brass gallows shaped lapel pin that was used, a man's gold pocket watch. There's a police officer's white Chicago police ribbon badge that was used as evidence. A souvenir token of the Haymarket Square riot that was used as evidence. Lead pipe bombs, police officers' guns, police batons, their giggle gavels brought in as evidence. Lots of things that really didn't seem to connect besides the globe-shaped bomb casting device that was brought in and the lead pipe bombs that were brought in as evidence. But none of these were tied to the men. They're just like, this is what would have been used. So, this is great detective work, guys. And that's how you really prove someone is guilty. Yeah, definitely could never, ever be beaten, in court and under intense scrutiny. Again, they just wanted these people to fucking die. They wanted them to shut up. And the best way to do that was going through, the technically legal method of killing people, which is through the law and through, the courts. The court system. That's how you do things nowadays. And then October, we have the address. The convicted deliver multiple addresses to the courts before they are sentenced. August Spies delivers like a 24-page speech to these people, and it's kind of crazy. He goes off on them. So let's go ahead and read some of this here. He starts by saying, "My defense is your accusation, the causes of my alleged crime, your history. I have been indicted on the charge of murder as an accomplice or accessory. Upon this indictment, I have been convicted. There was no evidence produced by the state to show or even indicate that I had any knowledge of the man who threw the bomb, or that I myself had anything to do with the throwing of the missile, unless, of course, you weigh the testimony of the accomplices of the state's attorney and Bonfield, the testimony of Thompson and Glimmer. By the price they were paid for it. If there was no evidence to show that I was legally responsible for the deed, then my conviction and the execution of the sentence is nothing less than willful, malicious, and deliberate murder, as foul a murder as may be found in the annals of religious, political, or any other sort of persecution. There have been many judicial murders committed where the representatives of the state were acting in good faith, believing their victims to be guilty of the charge accused of. In this case, the representatives of the state cannot shield themselves with a similar excuse, for they themselves have fabricated most of the testimony which was used as a pretense to convict us by a jury picked out to convict. Before this court and before the public, which is supposed to be the state, I charge the state's attorney in Bonfield with the heinous conspiracy to commit murder. He straight up just like goes off on them. He's like, you guys, like, this is a sham. This is fucking stupid. You guys are trying to commit murder here just by stacking the jury, which they totally did. They wanted the owners of the companies that they were, rioting against and protesting against, had a lot of connections, as we'll go into the conspiracy section later, where they definitely would have, like, the DA, the mayor, all these people would have had some financial benefit for killing these assholes. And by assholes, I mean these really brave men. I just say assholes just because it makes it easier. I don't know. I just say assholes. Just say assholes. Everyone's an asshole, man. Anyways, I will state a little incident which may throw light upon this charge. On the evening on which the Praetorian Guards of the Citizens Association, the Bankers Association, the Association of the Board of Trademen, and the Railroad Princes attacked the meeting of workingmen on the Haymarket with murderous intent. On that evening, at about 8 o'clock, I met a young man, Legner by name, who is a member of the Aurora Verein. He accompanied me and never left me on that evening until I jumped from the wagon. A few seconds before the explosion occurred, he knew that I had not seen Schwab on that evening. He knew that I had no such conversation with anybody as Mr. Marshall Field's protege, Thompson, testified to. He knew that I did not jump from wagon to strike the match and hand it to the man who threw the bomb. He is not a socialist. Why did we not bring him on the stand? Because the honorable representatives of the state, Grimmel and Bonfield, spirited him away. These honorable gentlemen knew everything about Legner. They knew that his testimony would prove the perjury of Thompson and Glimmer beyond any reasonable doubt. Legner's name was on the list of witnesses for the state. He was not called. However, for obvious reasons, he stated to a number of friends that he had been offered $500 if he would leave the city, and threatened with direful things if he remained here and appeared as a witness for the defense. He replied that he could neither be bought nor bulldozed to serve such a damnable and dastardly plot. When we wanted Legner, he could not be found, Mr. Grinnell said, and Mr. Grinnell is an honorable man. That he had himself been searching for the young man, but had not been able to find him. About 3 weeks later, I learned that the very same young man who had been kidnapped and taken to Buffalo, New York, by two of the illustrious guardians of, quote, law and order, two Chicago detectives, let Mr. Grinnell, let the Citizens Association, his employer, let them answer for this, and let the public sit in judgment upon the would-be assassins. So what he's talking about here is essentially he had a way to prove the Thompson and Grinnell's testimony against him, which we're going to get into towards the end of the conspiracy section here. Like, we'll go over like what all definitely is incredibly shady about this, but they essentially took the guy away that could testify and like prove that these two people were lying. They kidnapped him and forced him to go to Buffalo, New York. They first tried to bribe him and like offer him money, and then they threatened him. So it's fucking crazy what they're doing here. They're definitely trying to get rid of Alka Spice because he's like the leader. He's the face of this movement, and they can't have the face be there anymore. It's bad for business. It's making too many people lose too much money. And so, anyways, he continues on saying, no, I repeat, the prosecution has not established our legal guilt, notwithstanding the purchased and perjured testimony of some, and notwithstanding the originality, sarcastically, he says. So the typewriter writes sarcastically, the originality of the proceedings of this trial. And as long as this has not been done, and you pronounce upon us the sentence of an appointed vigilance committee, acting as a jury, I say you, the alleged representatives and high priests of law and order, are the real and only lawbreakers. and in this case to the extent of murder. It is well that the people know this, and when I speak of the people, I don't mean the few co-conspirators of Grinnell, the noble patricians who thrive upon the misery of the multitudes. These drones may constitute the state. They may control the state. They may have their Grinnells, their Bonfields, and other hirelings. No, when I speak of the people, I speak of the great mass of human bees, the working people who unfortunately are not yet conscious of the rascalities that are perpetrated in the name of the people, in their name. The contemplated murder of 8 men whose only crime is that they have dared to speak the truth may open the eyes of these suffering millions, may wake them up. Indeed, I have noticed that our conviction has worked miracles in this direction already. The class that clamors for our lives, the good, devout Christians, have attempted in every way through their newspapers and otherwise to conceal the true and only issue in this case. By simply designating the defendants as anarchists and picturing them as a newly discovered tribe or species of cannibals. And by inventing shocking and horrifying stories of dark conspiracies said to be planned by them. These good Christians zealously sought to keep the naked fact from the working people and other righteous parties. Namely, that on the evening of May 4th, 200 armed men under the command of a notorious ruffian attacked a meeting of peaceable citizens. With what intention? With the intention of murdering them, or as many of them as they could. I referred to the testimony given by 2 of our witnesses. The wage workers of this city began to object to being fleeced too much. They began to say some very true things, but they were highly disagreeable to our patrician class. They put forth, some very modest demands. They thought 8 hours hard toil a day for scarcely 2 hours pay was, enough. The lawless rabble had to be silenced. The only way to silence them was to frighten them and murder those whom they looked up to as their leaders. Yes, these foreign dogs had to be taught a lesson so that they might never again interfere with the high-handed exploitation of their benevolent and Christian masters. Bonfield, the man who would bring a blush of shame to the managers of the Bartholomew Knight Bonfield, the illustrious gentleman with a visage that would have done excellent service to Dore in portraying Dante's fiends of hell, Bonfield was the best man fitted to consummate the conspiracy of the Citizens Association of our patricians. If I had thrown that bomb, or had caused it to be thrown, or had known of it, I would not hesitate a moment to state so. It is true a number of our lives were lost. Many were wounded, but hundreds of lives were thereby saved. But for that bomb, there would have been 100 widows and hundreds of orphans, where now there are few. These facts have been carefully suppressed, and we were accused and convicted of conspiracy by the real conspirators and their agents. This, Your Honor, is one reason why sentence should not be passed by a court of justice if that name has any significance at all. So here he points out, he would have, just been like, yeah, I threw the bomb, especially if that was his plan, but that's not at all what he wanted to do. He's basically stating it was a plant. They essentially sent someone in there, they hired some guy to act like they were part of the movement and then throw a bomb so that way they can have a reason to out these guys as devils, as these anarchist fiends and try to kill them, or find a legal way to lock them up and get them off, get them out of their hair forever. So kind of nuts. Also, I am so sorry, guys, but this is going to be a 3-parter. I wanted to give you guys a little more taste of what was to come. And I know that, again, this is a 20-minute episode. It's shorter, but I have a shit ton of things to do in prep for work, and I am actually going to be working on the show a little more too. Once I get back, I'm going to go visit some family this weekend. So I'm recording this late on a Friday night. And I know last week I was sick, which sucks. And then this week I just have some family matters that I need to attend to. So I'm getting as much done as possible. But I promise you, next Sunday, it's going to be like a 2-hour complete in-depth dive of everything. I'm talking. The conspiracy section of this is going to be massive. This is where all the names and everything in the trial is going to come out. I just wanted to read to you guys. I want to give you like what the basic timeline was for all of this, because their arrests and everything that happened was like months of time, and there's just so much. It's so dense as to what all happened. This is a true historical conspiracy here, and it is so interesting. It is so fascinating, and I hope that this guy's, I guess, like last testimony, like his speech that he gives after he is convicted, tantalizes the taste buds enough that you're willing to wait one more week for me to truly dive deep into this. Because I know that this must have felt super jarring to just like jump from one thing like to the very end of this within the span of 20 minutes. My intention was just to get your guys's focus and get you excited. If you guys share this episode and kind of get people ready for next Monday, and we get a lot more people listening, I'm even potentially thinking about doing like a live stream or something like that, where I can like answer questions as like the episode's being dropped. So like I'll release it like super late Sunday night, and we can all listen to it together. So instead of like on a Monday, so we'll get a little early. But yeah, I gotta get ready. We're gonna be driving out to Washington. So I'll see you guys, and you guys will hear from me next week. So keep on rocking. Get ready for this. It's a doozy. This is such a fun story, you guys. Thank you. Bye.